And I'm C-SCAN and Josh Sachs, and I have been running this particular initiative for the Environmental Commission, and Josh is tonight at citywide in France. Okay. I'll feel very sorry for him. But he and I have been looking at energy aggregation for a while, and it's a program that's supported by the New Jersey State Bureau of Public Utilities. And it helps residents, thank you. Okay, it helps residents with the cost of their electricity as well. It can help a community with their carbon footprint. So it's a very, very good program. We have been asked by the Township Committee if we would do some outreach into the community, and we are reaching out into the community so that people get a chance to understand some of the basics of the program for community energy aggregation, how easy it is to participate, the benefits of participating, and how it might reduce the community's carbon footprint. So we are very fortunate to have two energy experts with us this evening. We have Lisa Hibbs, who is the Vice President and of Operations and Government Relations at Commercial Utility Consultants, Inc. And we have Vicki Malloy, who is also a Vice President of Concord Energy Services, a division of Concord Engineering Group. And we are also very lucky this evening. We're going to be able to have Mayor Timothy McDonough, who is the mayor of Hope, who is participating in one of these programs. And he's going to give us an idea what the experience is like for a town to actually have an energy aggregation program going. So we're going to do a presentation, and Vicki and Lisa are going to kind of back and forth this a little bit. And then we're going to ask Tim to speak to us a little bit about what he thinks about the program from his town. And then after that, we're going to open it up for questions from everybody in the room here. We're going to ask you when you have a question, just to let us know you have one. If you'll stand where you are, give us your name and address, and then the question, and then we'll try to field it for you. Okay? Good. And with that, I'm going to turn this over, Mark, to Lisa and Vicki, and our slides are going to be up here and here, I guess. What? 3D slides. We were told we're guinea pigs tonight because there's a new system here, and they've been working on it, and so we're the first.
While we wait for that, I wanted to thank everyone for coming out tonight, and also to the Township for the opportunity to chat with you about the energy aggregation program, what it does, what it doesn't do. I think a lot of times people underestimate or overestimate the reach of government sometimes when they offer programs like this to residents. So with that, we can go to the next slide. All right, so we're going to go back to the basics. So this slide here shows you the different components of our electricity, right? So we're going to start by reviewing electric service, which was created through deregulation. So energy deregulation is just a separation of distribution from supply. So in 1999, New Jersey deregulated. So we separated supply from distribution. So if you look at the graphic, the top before graphic shows you generation plants push the electricity directly to the LDC, local electric company or local distribution company, in our case, JCP&L. And then JCP&L delivered it to us. In 1999, through deregulation, electric suppliers were introduced into the mix. This was designed to create some competitive pricing. into the mix. So hold on just one second, guys. Sorry about that. I'm too short is what it is. So as illustrated in the graphic, before 1999, JCP&L would generate the electricity and bill for the supply and distribution portion of our bills. After 1999, JCP&L is still only responsible for the distribution of our electricity. All right, they're going to collect money for both the supply and the distribution, but they're only keeping their portion for the distribution. Supply costs are passed on to the suppliers, and we'll talk about those on the next slide. So energy deregulation, along with customer choice legislation, gave customers the option to select our own third-party suppliers. About 18% of residents currently select their own supplier. Next slide. Yeah, I don't. Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys. I don't want to necessarily pull that out of there, but so how are electricity rates set in New Jersey? We'll wing it. How are, oh, it does help immensely. That should do it. Okay. So New Jersey Board of Public Utilities, commonly referred to as the BPU, I may say that a lot tonight, runs an annual auction for the entire state every February. Winning suppliers are selected by the BPU, rates are set. Those rates take effect in June of that same auction year. So the rates set by the state that take effect in that June are referred to on our bills as basic generation service. So if you are not currently enrolled with a third-party supplier right now and you pull your recent JCP&L bill, you should see under your customer charges something called basic generation service. That's your supply charge. There's also distribution charges on that bill. So the last BPU auction was held in February 2022, and these are the winners of that supplier. You may recognize, that is not the right slide, but interesting. Okay, so I'm just going to read off. So it's Axpo, Calpine, ConocoPhillips, Constellation, DTE, Dynegy, Hartree, NextEra, and TransAtlanta. So these are the suppliers that are pushing the electricity onto the grid. JCP&L is just distributing that electricity to its customers. So in our program, the only thing that's changing, these suppliers are being replaced with a winning supplier at the time of auction. Next slide. So the aggregation process works in parallel to the state's process. As we discussed on the previous slide, the BGS auction is held every February, sets each utility's default rate, which takes effect in June of that same year. The GEA, the Government Energy Aggregation Act of 2003 was passed, allowing counties and municipalities to aggregate their load and compete for a cheaper price versus the utility price. In 2012, New Jersey Administrative Code Title 14, Section 6 was passed, allowing municipalities to aggregate for their residents' usage. So the municipal piece was working well. Residents, as you know, I don't know how many people here have had a third-party supply contract before. I don't know how many have had a bad experience. Right, so the state recognizes that. So through this program, there are some consumer protections that are available to residents that are not necessarily available in an independent third-party contract. We'll cover that in a different slide. So the community energy aggregation replaces the basic generation or utility default rate on our bills. It's all that's happening here. Okay, JCP&L is still your utility. There's no harm done to JCP&L. Remember, they're only collecting for and keeping their distribution costs. Everything else they're passing on to the suppliers on that previous slide. All right, so by buying electricity in bulk from a third-party supplier for a specific aggregate community, we're able to obtain rate reductions on energy costs. So while month-to-month savings is not guaranteed, the program is designed to save residents money over the term of the contract. The CEA program offers residents consumer protections, including budget stability, fixed price contracts, no fees or penalties, and written notification at least 30 days prior to the termination or extension of a contract. I think some of you that have had third-party contracts, that was part of the issue. Sometimes they auto-renew at a much higher rate. Just gonna take it. All right, so let's talk about the aggregation process. Next slide. This is where you all are. Right, so the aggregation process provided through the state regs require that a municipality pass an ordinance to establish the program. This in no way obligates the municipality to go out to auction or to sign a contract with a supplier. This enables the municipality to do that. Okay, so the ordinance is the first step. If the municipality wants to join with other towns, what we call shared services or through a cooperative, you can do that as well. That would be done through a resolution. So you would find a co-op in JCP&L territory. We actually work with 6 of them already. So there are plenty of trailblazers that have gone before you, done this, and had remarkable success. We've got a co-op in Morris County that has saved residents over $2 million since 2015. So they've been kicking around for a long time. We have the Burlington Co-op, and we have 4 others. The Hunterdon Co-op, I think, is some of your neighboring towns are in that cooperative as well. So all program documents are reviewed by the BPU and Division of Rate Counsel before any energy auction is held. That's according to the regs. They have oversight over the entire process. So in order for a supplier's bid to be considered in an auction, their rate must be lower than the utility's basic generation service rate at the time of that bid. For instance, if we were to take Morris Township out to auction today, the price that we're looking to beat is 8.7 cents. So the prices received would have to be lower than 8.7 cents in order to be considered. Right, so we look for the sweet spot. Anywhere from 5 to 8% savings is what we generally recommend for these programs. We've had savings in excess of 18, 20%. It was a fluke, but it did happen. Most average anywhere between 7 and 12% savings over the term. So once the winning supplier is selected and an award is made, there are some agreements between the township and the winning supplier that would need to be signed, and the outreach to residents in earnest would really begin. So we'll know who the supplier is, we'll know the contract term, we'll know the rate. So a mailing will go out to all of the residents. And in that will be some information about some outreach presentations. We can do them live, we can do them in person, online. There'll be a video that we create that will be posted on a website so that folks that can't make it out to presentations or online can view that at their leisure. And as we near the end of a contract term, the municipality or the cooperative decides whether to repeat the auction process or to return all of the enrolled residents to the basic generation service through the utility. Pretty simple process. Next slide. All right, so now we'll get into the details. So if a winning supplier is identified for your CEA program and a contract is awarded, that mailing to residents is going to be sent to what we call eligible residents in the municipality. Eligible resident just means anyone who is not already in a contract with a third-party supplier, solar customers, and time of day meters. This is something that was popular back in the 80s, 70s, 80s, early 90s. They've been grandfathered, but some towns do still have some of those meters in use. So if for some reason there is a resident in town that has one of those meters, they will not be automatically enrolled. If they're using that meter properly, they're saving a lot more money than we could save them through the CEA program. So the eligible customer list is provided to us by the utility. Okay, so that's where that information comes from. We request that information for the geographic boundaries for each of the participating municipalities in a program. So the regulations governing the CEA program are specific as to what information goes into that information mailer. The BPU Rate Council will actually review that mailer for compliance prior to distributing that to residents. The mailing will include the dates and locations of the outreach presentations I talked about earlier, and some login information for online presentations, as well as information on how residents can opt out of the program. This is an opt-out. In order to get the pricing, everybody is kind of included at the beginning. Residents absolutely can opt out. I'll go through a little bit more detail on the time frame and all of the details on that, but you do not have to stay in the program. It does not matter how many residents opt out of the program. The price taken at auction for the term accepted at auction remains. Might be a little tough come renewal time to repeat that with just a handful of residents participating, but just want you to know it is not, attrition does not impact the program. Once the mailing is distributed, it starts the clock on a 30-day initial opt-out period. So the mailing goes out, first 30 days, we're just educating, right? We're having our town hall meetings, we're doing online presentations, folks are getting the mail, going through it, and calling us with any questions. If they opt out during that time, their account never moves off of the basic generation service through the utility. It's only those folks that are left after that 30-day opt-out period who have chosen not to opt out, whose accounts will be enrolled in the program with that winning supplier at the program rate for the term. Okay, so residents can opt out of the program by returning a response card that is in the mailer. We have a toll-free number that's dedicated to just opt out. So you have questions, it's one phone number. If you just want out, separate phone number. Those folks are there not to talk you into anything, but just to opt folks out of the program if that's what they want. And you can also do it through our website. You can do it online. So residents can decide at any time after the program begins. Okay, so you missed the 30-day window. You get your first bill, you realize you're in the program, you want out. You can still opt out. You can opt in and out of this program at any time during the contract term. No fees, no penalties. So if you get something in the mail, right, those of you that are sort of contract savvy, you get a 6-month deal. Our program's running for, say, 22 months. You can opt out of our program, go take advantage of your 6-month deal, come back when you're done. It's literally designed to give you another option, not to mandate that you participate, okay? Again, the program only includes eligible residents, so those who are not currently with a third-party supplier, who don't have solar or a time-of-day meter. Next slide. Under the current CEA program, all current services offered by the utility will still be offered by the utility. So this includes things like delivery of your electricity, meter readings, billing, payments, emergency services, et cetera. Nothing changes. JCP&L is still in charge of your distribution. Residents continue to call the utility for service-related questions and to report outages. Residents continue to receive one bill every month from their current utility. Budget billing, sometimes referred to as equal payment plans, also offered through the program. You'll have one separate budget plan for your distribution and a separate piece for your supply through the program. Again, there are no fees to participate or not in the program. No one from the program will be calling residents or knocking on their doors with information about the program. The only information is the mailer, the town hall style meetings, and what's posted on the website. We have had experiences where we roll a program out, it's public information. Third-party suppliers will do things like knock on a door and say, hey, in order to enroll in Morris Township's CEA program, I just need your account information. You're about to be slammed. Okay, so just keep in mind that the communication is is in coordination with the township. It's done by mail as required by law, okay? The only time we're gonna call a resident is if they call us first, just to respond to a question, okay? We can also help with billing questions, just so that you know. You can call the utility with your billing question, but you can also call us if the supply charges look a little wonky. All right, so next slide. Municipalities have the option of offering programs with higher percentages of renewable energy. This might be of interest to this group. I think you're all familiar with the state's renewable portfolio standard. This sets the minimum required renewable energy that comes through basic generation service. The Hunterdon Co-op has offered the option for residents to opt into 100% renewable energy. Our Hoboken program does the same. So rather than saying residents, we're going to set as your default 100% renewable, it's more expensive than the RPS minimum. So in order to offer the savings to residents, the ultimate savings, you go with the RPS minimum with the option to opt up into 100% renewable. Our Hunterdon Co-op had a 12% opt-up rate. Some towns were less, some towns were more, but the average for those 15 towns was 12%. Okay. And there was still savings achieved with that 100% renewable energy. Right, so it enables the municipality to influence the source of electricity supply to the region. It provides environmental benefits, obviously. There is still, the cost savings to the residents over the price to compare is not required by law. You can set a price that is higher. We haven't seen anyone do it yet. Again, the primary reason for the board creating the energy aggregation programs was to offer you a competitive price for your electricity, not a higher price. But when you add the renewable in, because your focus has shifted onto environmental benefits versus just the savings, they do allow you to achieve that at a higher price than what residents are paying through JCP&L. We would recommend a very robust outreach if that is the way the township wants to go, okay? Just because the price could be higher. We don't want residents to be surprised. Again, if they miss the mailer, if they miss the town hall style meeting, then they're enrolled and they're not expecting it, and budget stability and things like that are just things to keep in mind. So next slide. And if you can hit the space bar. Okay, so this is a sample JCP&L bill. It's from 2012, but it is the one that is up on JCP&L's website, so we use it. So the only line item that changes in the program is that second arrow, the lower arrow next to basic generation service. That will be replaced by the name of the winning supplier and the program rate. Our program rate does not change seasonally. JCP&L has a winter rate and they have a two-tiered summer rate, right? The program rate is one rate for the contract term regardless of what month we're in, okay? So this line item, again, replaced with the winning supplier, the contract rate for the program. That top arrow under messages, don't be deceived. There's way more messages than that on your bill. But if you're enrolled in the program, there will be a statement in that message box about what you would have paid had you been with JCP&L's basic generation service rate. So you can see, is the price still lower than what I would have paid through JCP&L? There's transparency. We can also offer you access to our online platform where you can log in and see your savings throughout the term of the program. So you don't have to track this on a spreadsheet or check your bill every month. You just log in, you'll see it. Okay, it totals it in the far right column for you. Again, just want to be transparent and honest about what the program does and what it doesn't do, right? So again, residents are still only going to receive this bill from JCP&L. Our program documents, our agreements, require the supplier not dual bill. for the supply. So we don't want to end up in this situation where you're getting one bill for your distribution from JCP&L, you're getting a separate bill for your energy costs, your supply costs from the program's supplier. So it's consolidated billing. Next slide. The CEA program offers residents a number of benefits. We talked about some of the consumer protections on a previous slide, but it never hurts to go over them again. So there's no predatory contracting, right? There's no teaser rate. There's no, hi, your rate's going to be this until I auto renew you, and then it jumps to this, but I'll never tell you. The rate is the rate throughout the contract term. We have had an instance way back when the state sales tax amount changed. We had to include that, right? So we sent the notice out to residents that said, hey, it's going to increase or decrease, which it did. And here's the new rate, right? But it's matched on the basic generation service side as well. So there was still no impact to the amount saved on residents' bills. So no fees of any kind, right? So there's no money to enroll. There are no fees or penalties to opt out of this program if you want to. Doesn't matter how many times you pop in and out. No fees. There's also no money going to the municipality for offering this program to residents. That is prohibited by the regulations. So there's literally nothing in this for the municipality other than they found a way to save residents money on their electric. The only way the CEA program could go forward is if we get a lower price at the time of the auction. Okay. Flexible participation, we covered that pretty well. Current services, still provided by the utility. Residents continue to receive that one bill. We talked about budget billing, equal payment plans, and we talked about the ability for these programs to include some additional renewable or green options as well. Next slide. All right, so here are the next steps. So Morris Township has graciously worked with us for quite some time through the Environmental Commission to talk about the best way to introduce this opportunity to residents. So here we are. If the Township Committee, if there's a recommendation from the Environmental Commission to move forward, our next step would be at Township Committee level, where they could entertain passing that ordinance, establishing the program, or authorizing the establishment of the program. We can also talk at a more granular level about options with regard to joining an existing cooperative, right? And we can demonstrate savings over the time that those co-ops have been in existence. So if Morris Township does decide to offer the program to residents, you'll be notified by mail. You'll also hear, hopefully, either through online or through newsletters about town hall style meetings, the online meetings. There's the website, which will be in that information packet. So all things related to the program will be posted on the program's webpage. So if you were wondering, hey, what's the rate again? I don't feel like pulling my bill out. Go right to the website. It'll be posted very clearly. Hey, when does this thing end? I just got this mailer about this deal with, I don't know, NextEra Energy, and I want to take advantage. You can always go to the website and find that information. The video will be posted under the program documents area. The video about the program will be posted there. Lots of information and just sort of what the program does and doesn't do, right? So as a refresher. And with that, that's about all I have to say. So Mayor McDonough.
Yes.
I'd like to turn it over to you, just so that you can give your thoughts and experience with the program.
Thank you. And good evening to everybody. And I'm sorry I'm not there in person, but the next best thing, Zoom, I guess. I'll be brief. I think Lisa hit many of the key points, quite frankly, key points that we were concerned about. So when this program was first brought to Hope Township, our governing body, our Environmental Commission, and our residents had questions, and as I know your residents will as well. The first one is, how did they get there? Who stands behind this? So it was important for us to know that the BPU was there and supporting this program and stand behind it. We were concerned about the relationships with our current JCP&L, which is your current energy provider as well. We happen to have a pretty good relationship with them in our town, and how is that going to change? There's stories, well, if our power goes out because we're getting it from a different supplier than another town is, that it's going to take them a longer time to put the power back up. Absolutely no truth to any of that kind of stuff at all, quite frankly. The power, or JCP&L, doesn't give a darn where we buy our power from, where we get our power from. They do not generate power. They only, they only supply it through their system. So that was important to know, that we were still considered part of the JCP&L system. Some of our residents had, as Lisa mentioned too, had some bad experience with third-party providers, and they got slammed, and therefore they think every program like this is that way. But I think because the BPU was behind this, and all the stopgap measures, which Lisa just talked about on the different slides, that certainly hasn't happened to anybody in Hope and anybody that I know that's in this program. The other item that was concerned to our residents is the opt-out. Why do we have to opt out? Why can't we just, why can't we just opt in? But that was a regulation that was put in there by the BPU. But I think over the period of time, and I guess we've gone through 3 auctions, right, Lisa? Is that we've had less than 10% of the people opt out. A lot people that did opt out, a lot of them eventually opt back in again when they realize what a good program this was. And we were concerned about a variable rate. Where are we going to get with energy all over the place these days? Was that going to affect us? And as Lisa mentioned, that we're locked in, and that will not happen. The other thing that we had is getting the word out to the residents and making sure the residents understood what the program was. And this was the great thing about the company that we're talking about here tonight, is they really bent over backwards with outreach. We had town hall meetings. We had meetings. We have a large senior population in Hope. We had meetings with our seniors. They put out mailers. They made themselves accessible by phone to anybody that wanted to make a call. So by the end of they're ready to put this program together, there were no questions. Every question we believe had been answered, and through the incredible outreach program that we have. So that's basically in a nutshell. We get residents almost at every one of our township meetings. We have one next week. I guarantee a resident will be there asking, when is this program going to start again? Lisa laughs about this. We were walking down the street one day, and a resident actually came riding by in his car. No joke, said, "Hey, Mayor, when are we going to get back into that?" This is when we were in it. We love that energy program. Keep it up. So that's the kind of enthusiasm we had. Now, Hope's a small town, a little bit smaller than Morris Township is, but a few dollars here, a few dollars there, whether it's 4%, 5%, 7%, 12%, whatever it is, it's money we didn't have before. It's money our residents didn't have before. So again, that's in our experience, and I'll answer any questions if anybody has any.
Thank you, Mayor. In Tim's remarks, Mayor's remarks, I was reminded that I didn't cover the permanent opt-out. I think it was on the slide, but I didn't say it. So permanent opt-out. It's an option on the postcard that's in the mailer. You can opt out one time only, so it's just this offering. If you permanently opt out, you can also do it online or over the phone. It just means that you would not only not be enrolled in this round of the program, but if the township offered another round, another contract with a different supplier at a different rate, you would not automatically be enrolled. It does not mean you can't actively opt in to the program. You can do that whenever you want. It just means that you won't have to opt out again. Okay. You also won't get the initial mailing about the new offering, but hopefully you'll hear about it through the township and can come to a meeting if you decide to opt in. Again, you can also visit that website because the new information about that new round will be posted there. You can always give us a call and ask us to re-enroll the account. Okay. So at this point, there's nothing for residents to do. With regard to the program, there's nothing to opt out of at this point. So there's no, you don't need to call us and say, hey, I'm not interested. You will have to wait to do that if that's what you want to do until the mailer comes out, until we have something again to offer you. But we're happy to process that as quickly as we can. Nick, did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think you covered it all.
Okay.
Can we open it up now for some questions from everybody in the room? Just raise your hand, stay where you are, give us your name and address, and ask your question. And between Mayor Michonna and Lisa and Vicky, hopefully we can answer the question.
If I can just interrupt, if there's anybody from the public that's on Zoom,
Oh.
you can raise your digital hand after we take any questions from the audience that are in person. We'll then bring on the people that have raised their digital hands to answer questions.
Just the other speaker wasn't near a microphone.
Yeah.
Oh, so
You want us to?
So we're going to actually open up the floor for questions and answers. Then we will flip it to our Zoom audience. And if you have questions at that point, you'll just raise your digital hand and we will take those questions. So anyone? Yes.
Cecile Kent, 22 Woodruff Road.
See, yeah, I'm going to change the whole thing.
Okay, good.
Everything you said,
Okay.
because the people
Can't hear.
on Zoom can't hear.
Oh,
So
okay.
we're going to go back to coming up to the
Coming-
podium.
Sure.
All right.
If you don't mind.
Okay, good.
Do you want this one or this one?
We're going to
Okay.
bring this one over,
Okay, and I'll use the other one.
and you can use that
Yep.
one. I'll use this one.
Yep.
Should we stand in line?
If you
Yes.
want to do that,
Yeah.
that would be great, Steve. Thank you.
Hi, Cecile Kent, 22 Woodruff Road. Lisa and Vicky, I believe you guys gave me this visual so that people would understand the idea of renewable energy in the grid. Do you remember the bathtub analogy that you gave me? The grid is like a bathtub,
Yep.
right? Can you give that to everybody so they understand what
So,
getting a renewable energy source really means?
right. So, just so that you know. Right. So, renewable energy. I don't want you to think that the little electrode, the little electron that's generated by the wind turbine in Iowa knows to go to Cease's house because she signed up for the 100% renewable, right? It's just the amount of renewable energy for this, however many residents sign up for that renewable, those number of kilowatt hours will be provided by the supplier onto the grid. Our grid is the PJM grid. We're 11 states? Yeah, 11 states. So I don't want to, so when we talk about carbon footprint, it's not like we eliminated a generator here in New Jersey that's generating non-renewable, possibly dirty energy. We hope that enough renewable energy in enough municipalities and with the national initiative and the state initiatives, we get there by 2050. But in the meantime, I just want you to know that the bathtub is full of water. The water comes from different sources. So it's a mix of renewable and non. Is that the analogy, Cease? So when you get your bucket of water out of the bathtub, you're getting a mix. You're not necessarily getting 100%, but you made known that, hey guys, hey supplier, replace my kilowatt hours that are coming off the grid with renewable energy onto the grid. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Thanks. Siva Janata, 77 Hillcrest Avenue. My first question is to Mayor McDonough. I think I might have missed it. How long has Hope Township been with this program? How many years?
Lisa, I think you can answer that better than I can. We've gone out to 3 different auctions, right, Lisa?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They were the ones that got 20%. They have not been able to reproduce those efforts, but they did get 20% their first time out,
Okay.
and then I think settled in somewhere around the 9%
Okay.
maybe on their last.
Right, and the other
That-
question is,
Sir, I'm
Oh, is
sorry.
that-
Go ahead, sir. I'm done.
oh, you keep talking. I have another question.
No, I
Something
just
else.
said that's why I used the comment whether you're getting 20% or whether you're getting 30 or 13% or 3%. I mean, there is a cutoff where it just doesn't make sense to do this. But every dollar is a dollar that we didn't have before, especially for our seniors population. So a good question. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And my other question is, if a resident opts out either permanently or otherwise, but then moves out, what is the option for the new resident? Is the new resident also opting out, or how does that work?
Great question. So the new resident would have to opt in. They would have to know about the program. We do periodically, depending on the length of the contract term. If it's we can only set a contract term by law, no longer than 24 months. Okay, it's two, sometimes 3 BGS auctions, and it just gets a little unpredictable. So but we have a 2-year contract at 6 months, maybe at a year, we'll say to the supplier, hi, here's a list, or, JCP&L, please provide us a list of new residents since the program started. We will send them a letter that says, this is an option for you. They will not automatically be enrolled for the balance of the term, but they can certainly opt in and get the savings for the balance of the term.
Hi, Charlie Schachter, 10 Raleigh Court. I had a couple of questions. Maybe I just missed this or misunderstood. So with the renewable energy option, do all the participants have to do the same thing, or, so each participant, you can choose whether you want to do 100% renewable or whatever the current mix is? So that's person by person.
I will clarify. Yes, so if the person does nothing, so they don't opt out and they don't opt up, they're going to be enrolled at the default rate, which is the RPS minimum, right? That's the lowest possible price. You have the option to opt up into the 100%. Pricing taken at auction will not be impacted by the number of participants in the different pricing options, okay?
I think so.
Would you like to talk about Hoboken? No. Okay. All right. So Hoboken actually has 3 offerings. So Hoboken went for 10% additional renewable as their default option. So if you do nothing, you come in at 10%. Residents have the option to opt down or up. The down is not as many people took advantage of it as I anticipated. So yeah, that's a fairly low percentage. The opt up into the 100%, I think they're at 7%, 8% opt up. Yeah, it's higher because of where they're sourcing it from. It's like 3 cents higher. So not, but again, everyone that didn't opt out, opt down, opt up, still getting 10% additional renewable energy in their mix, okay? So it's filling up the bathtub.
Okay, so my second question is about rates. And so with the renewables, so you said there was an average of, let's say, 7 to 12% savings off of what the prevailing rate would be. If you chose renewable, would that generally bring you back up to the prevailing rate? Would that be an additional 7 to 12%?
It depends on where you're sourcing it from. If you tell me Hey guys, we want the 100% or the additional 10% to be from New Jersey sourced, right? We want locally grown renewable energy in our mix. That's expensive because there's not a lot of it. And we're having a bit of a backlog putting that renewable energy onto our grid. Our grid is designed to go down and out, not in from all of these different locations. So that's an infrastructure issue. The Board of Public Utilities, every meeting talks about the need for utilities and PJM and FERC to all work together. But there's a 2-year backlog for new projects coming onto the grid. Again, we don't want to crash the grid. That's not the goal. And with glacier-like speed, government moves ahead. But that's just sort of where we are. So it does depend. If you tell me, hey, Lise, I want national wind turbines spinning out in the middle of a field, not cheaper, not as cheap as it once was, because as we demand more renewable, the supply just isn't there. So it would depend on how specific you get.
And how do we choose that as a community? What do you mean, how specific? That would be up to the.
Yes. So it's up to how you structure your CEA program. If you want sustainable Jersey points, they're there, but they get specific about where that energy has to be sourced from and the classification of that energy. Okay, so they want solar, they want, PJM grown, not necessarily New Jersey. The Sustainable Monmouth Alliance wants New Jersey. They prefer New Jersey. They're going out to auction October 15th. So I'll report back on that. Yeah.
Final question. So just last thing. So you had mentioned the on-off peak and summer, winter. I'm very conscious of this. My wife uses a lot of electricity for ceramics. She has a kiln. So she runs it at night. Okay. So when you talk about the 7 to 12% on average discount, is that considering 50% on off whatever the average, like what's the, yeah. How do you average?
So we do not have an on-peak off-peak price structure at this point. It's been promulgated by a lot of states as a way to incentivize energy efficiency, right? But there are actually meters here in the state that are metered on and off peak. Your off-peak rate is, I think, I don't know what it is right now. It was 4 to 5. Yeah, it's 4 to 5 cents, but you're on peak, you're probably at 12 cents. Yeah. So, and that's why, because if you're using your meter as designed, we can't touch the price that you're getting per kWh. We would actually hurt you, theoretically. But a lot of those folks that have those meters don't realize they have that meter or have just given up with, hey, I can't remember to do my laundry after 9. Like, yeah. Or it's not convenient. Yeah. Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And there's also an idea floating around that there be a separate tariff for electric charger. It's not gone very far, but it's out there. No.
Eric Rush, 10 Frederick Place. So at the beginning of your talk, you mentioned the fact that some of your programs are co-ops. So if Morris Township decided they wanted to pair up with Chatham and Madison to do a co-op, would the rates be affected as such because it's a bigger audience? Would that?
That's the idea.
Okay, so that would increase the discount, supposedly. Theoretically.
Yes,
Okay.
it depends on load factors and things like that.
Right.
We have a lot of shore towns in some of our co-ops. So their load factors, while we aggregated them together, you take one sort of inland town out of the mix, the pricing kind of falls off.
Right.
Because we're back in.
You'd have to have everybody in.
So yes, the idea is you don't want to get too big of a scale, but
Right.
yes,
Something we should consider, I guess.
we should consider.
And you mentioned there's already a Morris Township co-op?
Yeah, there's a Morris Township. There's Morris County, Morris Area Energy Cooperative. has been around since 2015. There are currently 13 towns that participate. The Hunterdon Co-op has 16 towns and spans 5 counties. So again, they're not geographically bound by the name of the co-op. As long as the towns are serviced by the same utilities, we're fine. Yeah, yep. And there's the Sussex Warren Co-op that Mayor McDonough is part of. There's the Monmouth Ocean Co-op. There's Sustainable Monmouth. There's Burlington. There's a lot of them in JCP&L. You're welcome. Thank you.
That's okay. Hi, Hart Coven, 28 Oak Lane in Township. First, the presentation was super helpful and I learned a lot. I actually pulled up my JCP&L bill because I'd never really looked at it before. And I realized that my question is about the savings, I'm trying to quantify the savings, because I didn't realize that the generation portion of my bill is about 55% and the delivery is about 45%. So when you say that there's a 9% savings, let's say, so it would really be a 5% savings for the resident of the total bill? Okay, there's no impact whatsoever to the delivery charge? Okay, that's it.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
So to answer that question for those of you online that may not have heard me, the question was about the savings. Is it applied to both the distribution and the supply side of the bill? And it is not. It is only on the supply charges. So distribution charges remain the same. So any discount would just be supply charges. Right, there is no one else at the microphone in the room. So we'll go. Oh, hold on. This just in.
Adam Kane of 19 Catalpa. So the question is, we're talking about you go out to auction, come out with a rate, kilowatt hour, and that's the rate. There were 2 vice presidents here. Vice presidents don't come cheap last time I did economics. How do you get paid?
We get paid once the meters start spinning. Yes, once. So our fee is built into the price that residents pay. It will be discoverable once we get the documents together. You'll see that fee built in to the price. But yes, once we only get paid if there's a program underway. And our fees are at risk because what if you all opt out? There are no meters spinning. So that's a great question. That's how we get paid.
So given that, is the percent savings that you're talking about based on the kilowatt hour or the imputed rate with your salary computed in it?
So it is with our fees included. Yes.
Donna Gariglia, 11 Butterworth Drive. You talked about who can't opt in. So I'm wondering in the township, do we keep track of like who has these old time of day meters and who has solar? Or
that information will be provided by the utility. So they will identify those, the net metered accounts and the time of day metered accounts for us. It depends. The time of day meters, yes. We had a lot of them in Burlington County. We had some out in the Sussex Warren Co-op, but there aren't many of them left. You can't get them anymore. So if you ever have to have your meter replaced, it's gone. But with regard to the question about the solar, again, it depends on the town. Obviously, a lot of rental properties in a municipality will throw that number off because they just can't. But the utility company will tell us, and when we do the outreach, we will say, like, hey guys, if you're planning on doing a solar project on your house, opt out about 2 months before you go live, just to make sure we've got you off. It will just impact your credits, right? Because your credits will only be applied to the distribution portion of your bill, no longer the supply. So back to that gentleman's point, like it's only going to be a discount on 55% of your bill. You're going to lose out. And if you have a contract where those credits disappear at the end of the year and they don't roll, we just did you a disservice. So we just opt those folks out. It's not that you can't come in. You can certainly opt in. Time of day meter residents can opt in if they know, like I haven't done that since 1993. Like I'm done with that. They can certainly opt in, but we would ask them to do their due diligence and be proactive in doing that.
You ready for it?
I think so.
Okay, we'll go to the Zoom portion of the meeting. Kathy, if you're there, please feel free to unmute yourself and state your name and address.
Hi, it's Kathy, Copperfield Way. And my question was, I think you're saying that this is only for the portion that's the basic generation service. And that would be a total of 8 cents, or that's what you're going to have to negotiate still?
Right. So the answer to the first part of your question is yes. It is only on the basic generation service charges. And the second part is we do not negotiate the rate, right? We have to go out to auction. Suppliers submit their bids. But in order for a bid to be considered today in today's energy market, it would have to be below 8.7 cents. Did that answer it, Kathy?
Yes, thank you. And when's that going to happen? Like soon or what? So that we know what the,
So it's about so soup to nuts, guys. From ordinance to auction, it can be anywhere from 3 to 6 months, depending on how swiftly the process moves along at the township level. And again, if you're joining an existing cooperative, you have to pass your resolution. If you're starting a new cooperative, that would require additional time. You'll have to RFQ for services for an energy consultant. You'd have to do some more legwork. So, and then Kathy, we're reliant on the market cooperating, which it is not right now. So it's good that you have 3 to 6 months, I think.
Okay, with that, we'll move to Fred.
Hello, this is Fred Nagel, 7 Pine Tree Lane. I did some research before coming to this meeting, and from what I read, the IOUs, like JCP&L and PSE&G, they're regulated by the Board of Public Utilities, correct? And that means that the prices that are set by the Board of Public Utilities. And from what you said, they control about 80% of the power market. And I don't really understand how, because if you look at like the Amazons and the Walmarts, how are these smaller energy companies that have a fraction of the consumer base able to get lower prices than PSE&G and JCPL because they control 80%?
Right. So I think that we are apples and oranges right now. So the suppliers supplying the electricity through PSE&G's basic generation service rate were selected by the Board of Public Utilities at their auction in February. So those are the guys that have, as you say, 80% of the marketplace here in New Jersey. So when we take a smaller aggregate out to auction with perhaps a better load factor than the entire state, we can get competitive rates from suppliers that don't have any supply coming onto the grid for New Jersey. So that's how that process works. Did that answer? Okay.
I think so. Another question that I have is, I looked through, the list of these third-party unregulated power suppliers, and I saw a lot
They are licensed suppliers in the state,
but
they
their
are regulated.
prices aren't controlled by the Board of Public Utility. They just
Correct.
So there's no price floor. There's also no price ceiling, meaning they can charge. What did you say? You said it's like 8 cents a kilowatt. They can charge if they wanted to $1 a kilowatt. if
Yes,
there's
if they
a
could get
hidden
it for
trigger
$4,
in the
yes.
contract.
Mhm.
So I looked at a lot of them, and a lot of them seem to not have jobs in New Jersey. And, you know, since we're facing a recession, it seems like at some point, you know, is it wise to give our business to companies that don't have New Jersey jobs? Because we know JCPL and PSE&G, they employ thousands of New
Again,
Jersey jobs.
just as a reminder, JCP&L and PSE&G are not suppliers. They are not generators. They simply distribute the energy.
Well,
So those jobs are related to distribution, not supply.
they don't have any
Yeah, no,
jobs for supplying energy.
No.
They have to go bid, just like they have to go bid.
I think that's it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, with that, we'll move to Ken.
Great, thank you very much. I am very, very familiar with the program. I looked at it for Parsippany a couple of years ago. Parsippany is not using it for a variety of reasons, which I won't go into. But one of the things that we learned was, I think it was last year, was that the price of renewable energy was going up. And a lot of the big savings that we heard about, first of all, were in PSE&G territory, because PSE&G has higher rates than JCP&L. And so there were enormous, savings at the time. But we understood that the rates for renewable energy, because it was in high demand, and the fact that there's a backlog of new renewable energy projects coming onto the market that unfortunately is not being facilitated very well. The demand is just going up and the supply is not. And so I was wondering exactly what are you seeing today in terms of savings? And the other thing, just before you answer that, is my understanding that the price to beat with JCP&L was about 9.3 or 9.4 cents per kilowatt hour, not 8.7, although maybe things changed in the last.
Yeah, take a look at your basic generation service charge on your bill. It should be, as of September 1, 8778.
Yeah,
But yeah, close to 9. You're right, close to 9. Yep.
But they were going to have a rate increase, I understood, last November anyway. But regardless, so my question is, what exactly are you seeing right now in terms of competitive bids that are beating the JCP&L prices?
Nothing. Yeah, Ken, we've gone out to auction for our co-ops, I would say at least 3-4 times over the past year and a half, 2 years, and we're seeing nothing, right? Because basic generation service rate, just so everyone knows, that's sort of a 3-year average on the past 3 historic auctions that the state holds. Every auction impacts that price, but we are slow to feel the volatile market that we would be competing in. So Ken, great point. We are not seeing much at all. We are hopeful, based on what we're seeing, that in the next year and a half seems to be the turning point.
That's good. Okay, yeah, thanks very much. And by the way, a great answer when people ask you about producing the energy, but it's not the same electrons that actually get delivered to their homes. My answer is that, well, what you're doing is you're helping to clean the grid as a whole. And
absolutely.
the more we can drive demand for clean energy, the cleaner the grid overall becomes, and then we all benefit from cleaner air, regardless of where we are in the PJM entity.
We are on the planet. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to George.
Thank you. George Quillen, 7 Bishop Court. It's so exciting to hear that this is moving toward realization in Morris Township, and it's been a long time coming. So I'm grateful to hear this presentation, which was very informative, and looking forward to further progress. As far as my personal situation goes, I may not be somebody who's going to be participating because my wife and I are working on a house now. We're renovating a house and we're going to put solar panels on it. And so I don't think we're going to be eligible to participate, which is kind of too bad, but I'm glad we're putting on the solar panels anyway.
We are too. Yep.
The question that I wanted to ask is about time of day metering and electric rates varying by time of day, because it seems to me it's strongly in the public interest to have rates vary by time of day and to incent people to change their habits so that they use less electricity during peak times and more electricity, relatively speaking, during non-peak times. So I was surprised to hear that time of day metering is no longer.
Yeah, they discontinued it a while back, but to your point, I'm sorry to interrupt, George, but to your point, there are discussions at the state level about bringing that back, but we would have to manufacture all of those meters. So that is some time in the offing, I feel.
Is it prohibited for people to get time of day meters now?
You can't get one. You literally, if you call your utility, they don't have them. You'd have to have one from way back when. You'd have to be grandfathered.
But isn't it in utilities' interest to make them available? I don't understand why this is a problem for
We
them.
are not there yet. The Board of Public Utilities with their tariffs and the utilities tariffs and what they're requiring, we are not there yet. But if you want to get involved, the BPU holds calls and stakeholder meetings all the time about these types of things that could help while we wait for the grid to catch up.
Okay, and then similarly in energy aggregation programs, what would be the considerations to having those programs have rates that vary by time of day?
We can't. There's. Yeah, that's a bigger question for a different day. Again, we would have to have the meter in place for the utility to tell us when you used that kilowatt hour, and we are not there.
So the customers that can take advantage of this now are large corporations, is that right?
In their house. Yeah, they already have them in their house. Yeah, they've had them since 1980 something. Yeah.
And businesses as well, large businesses, manufacturers?
Commercial meters, yes.
Yeah.
But not residential. And this program is only limited to residential.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
Okay, we'll move on to Ken. Ken, if you're there, you can unmute yourself. Okay, we'll move on to Mayra.
Hi, I have a quick question. So for the customers who have solar panels, how is that going to impact the rate to which we sell our electricity back to the grid?
It won't, because you will not be enrolled in the program.
But will that affect the rate that the distribution company is going to pay us?
Nope. That's your separate contract with the utility. It has no impact whatsoever.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Mayra, can you please provide your name and address, please, for the record?
Yes, sorry. Myra, 141 Lake Road.
Thank you. With that, we'll go to Ken, if you're there. Okay, with that, we'll close the Zoom portion of this meeting.
Did you want me to say something?
Sorry, Ken, if your hand is up and you had a question, please feel free to state your name and address and your question.
Oh, I forgot to lower my hand. Maybe that's what it was. Sorry.
Thanks, Ken.
That could be, yes. And actually, in that time, we've also had Sue raise her hand. So Sue, if you could please state your name and address.
Unmute. Sue Young, Schoolhouse Lane. I was wondering, are you the only aggregate that the township is speaking with right now?
I do not believe so. We were sort of invited in because we have experience with cooperatives, with renewables. You are perhaps going to hear from other energy consultants as well.
Okay, and how is the margin that you charge when a fee or when the price comes in? What is the margin of your fee?
It's less than a 0.5%
per kilowatt.
Per kilowatt.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We actually have 2 more hands that have come up since then, if you still have time.
We do.
We'll go to RAH first. RAH, please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm sorry, it's Roseanne Haberman. I'm from 31 Manor Drive, Township. I had a question. Is there, I may have missed this, is there anything about reliability? Are they, versus like if you stayed with PSE&G, JCP&L, or you go to an aggregator, is there a reliability, you know, if you're moving all towards reliables and there's no wind, or what, how does that work? If the town goes into the co-op and it's like 20% reliable, or even any type of energy, is there a
So I just want to make sure that I'm hearing the question. So when you say reliability, there's reliability as far as delivery service goes. There's renewable energy built into the supply. So I need to know which way to answer that question.
In general, because depending on what the town, you know, the ordinance or the co-op we would agree to would have. In the end, like you said, we're getting what we get, right? You'll get what you get. But since we're not necessarily know where it's coming from, I mean, we'll know, but is there, in the contracts that you make when you put it out to auction, if I understand it properly, is there accountability or reliability to have actual energy?
Yes, there is a report that the supplier must provide. It's a certificate to say this kWh was sourced from X, right? They have to provide that on an annual basis. It's in the actual agreement that we ask the supplier to sign.
But what if for some reason, I don't know, say we get I don't know where the energy comes from, the solar, there's a natural disaster, and there's actually, how are you guaranteed that you have enough energy to give to everyone?
The basic generation service, the grid itself, I mean, that's the reliability, right? Okay. Yes, the supply coming onto the grid is an issue, but service disruption is usually because there's an issue with the grid or a transmission site or something like that. If you're asking if there's a deficiency in the supplier's ability to supply the contracted electricity, there is a clause for termination, and basic generation service would take over as the prevailing rate. Remember, the electron does not know where to go. He just goes on, it just goes onto the grid. I don't know why I made it male. But exactly. So it just goes onto the grid, right? So again, it's not like the wind produced in Iowa knows to come to Morris Township.
But is there a difference then between where JCP&L gets their, like where they aggregate their energy to get onto the grid versus whatever contracts they've negotiated? They must have right. They're acting like
they're gonna have different generation sites that they pull the energy from. Exactly, different suppliers. And it's the suppliers that are supplying the generated electricity.
Right. So is there a reliability requirement for the suppliers? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Is there a reliability requirement? Is it different than what we have now? Is my point. Is it different than what we have now?
I'm not understanding the question. Come on, you wait. Look. It's okay. An hour and 15 minutes.
All right, I'm Vicki Malloy. I'm going to try to answer your question.
Okay, thank
So
you.
there are a handful of suppliers that are providing the electricity into New Jersey to all of the utilities through the BGS auction that happens every February. And we covered it in the beginning of the slides. New Jersey as a state mandates that there's a certain amount of renewable energy that's put into our state every year. Okay, it's called Renewable Portfolio Standards, or RPS. Lisa has brought that up earlier. So right now, it's 24.5% renewable energy that has to come from Class 1 sources produced within our regional grid. Okay, so that's the requirement. Everything else is dirty. It's natural gas, it's oil, it's coal, all of our generation. So there is a mandate by the state to increase that renewable percentage every year through 2050 till we hit 100%. So by 2030, they're required to have 50% renewable energy as a mix within our state in the bathtub. So I hope that answers your question.
And Roseanne, you can actually go online, and if you just do a search on New Jersey State Renewable Portfolio Standard, you'll get that information. That'll pop up for you.
Okay, that
So you
wasn't
can-
really what I was asking, but that answers another question I was going to ask. That's fine. Thank
Okay.
you. I appreciate your time. Thank you, and I'm sorry to be so not clear.
Thanks.
Okay, we do have to hurry up because the Environmental Commission still needs to have their meeting. So we do have two speakers left, or one speaker left. Fred, if you could please state your name and address again, and please limit your comments to a very short time. Thank you.
Hi, Fred Nagel, 7 Punchy Lane. One question I have is, why are the solar panels not included in the aggregation? Because that seems like an easy way to bring renewable energy into our region.
Right. So, Fred, we actually already covered that. It is because of the way that your credits appear for your solar panels. If we move you to a supplier through the program, your credits will only be applied to the distribution portion of your bill. And you may not get the bang for your buck on those credits that you anticipated. So we do not opt you in. You can opt into the program, but that would be a proactive choice for you to make.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Good. Thank you very much. Oh, okay.
Coming to you.
Okay, I'm coming. I want to thank Mayor McDonough, and I want to thank Lisa and Vicki for coming out tonight to help us out. We appreciate all the information you've provided us, and thank you very much. And we are going to go back into the other room of the Environmental Commission, and any of the folks who are joining us tonight for the Environmental Commission in the room next door. Thank you.
My apologies.